Now, Andrés Felipe Valencia Barrientos, professionally known as Young Philly, is a Colombian-born, UK-based YouTuber and rapper. He launched his YouTube channel back in 2013 and began releasing music in 2017, quickly becoming one of the most recognizable young social media figures to emerge from the UK. But in late 2024, that image was overshadowed by serious allegations. On October 8, 2024, while touring in Australia, Young Philly was arrested in Brisbane and extradited to Perth after Australian authorities alleged he essayed a woman in her 20s in a hotel room following a nightclub performance. Soon after his extradition, he appeared in court as the case drew widespread public attention. Prosecutors charged him with 8 offenses in total, including multiple counts of non-consensual conduct, several assault charges, and 1 count of restricting breathing. The story quickly became a major headline, and since then, Young Philly has kept a very low profile. So for a lot of people, they kind of have forgotten about this entire case and what happened after the charges. So in this video, we're going to revisit what allegedly happened and break down some of the things that have transpired in the months since. Back in late September 2024, the night started out like any other tour stop. Philly had just come off of a performance in Perth, a show that added another highlight to his growing music career, but only shortly after, the situation would escalate into something far more serious, with authorities in Australia opening a case that would change everything for Philly.
We begin with breaking news, and a popular musician and YouTuber from the UK known as Young Philly has been extradited from Queensland to WA, accused of serious sexual assault allegations following an incident in Perth.
According to reports, Young Philly, real name Andrés Felipe Valencia Barrientos, was accused of sexually assaulting a woman in her 20s inside his Perth hotel room after performing at Bar 1 nightclub in Hillary's on September 28, 2024. On October 8, 2024, Western Australia police arrested him in Brisbane, the other side of the country, before extraditing him back to Perth to face the allegations in court. When he first appeared before Perth Magistrates Court, prosecutors detailed the case against Philly, 8 charges in total, including multiple counts of non-consensual conduct, several assault charges, and an allegation of restricting breathing. Prosecutors argued that the case against him was extremely strong, pointing to CCTV footage and photographs they said backed up the allegations they had against him. These images, not shown to the public, were presented only to magistrate, and according to prosecutors, they demonstrated injuries consistent with the allegations. In the prosecution's words, no ordinary person can consent in those circumstances. From there, things shifted to the bail debate. Prosecutors wanted Philly to stay in custody. Their argument was simple. Philly had no real ties to Western Australia. He was on tour. He had access to a whole lot of money because he's popular online and he's made a career out of that. And so they felt like that made him a flight risk. But Philly's lawyer pushed back hard, and he said his client deserved the same treatment as anyone else, that the principle of equality before the law mattered. He also pointed that if bail was denied, Philly could be sitting in Perth's Hakia prison for up to 2 years waiting for a trial, a place he described as harsh with nearly daily lockdowns. In the end, Magistrate Tanya Watt sided with the defense and bail was granted, but under very strict conditions. Philly had to put up $100,000 in cash, remain in Western Australia, report to police every single day, and surrender his passport. On top of that, he was banned from contacting the alleged victim and forbidden from talking about the case on his massive social media platforms. The case drew a crowd in the courtroom. Several men linked to Philly were seen in the gallery, while his young fans turned up saying that they wanted to hear the allegations for themselves. Outside the court, supporters and media gathered as he left the building. The allegations made immediate headlines across Australia and the UK, and a little bit in America, right? Sparking conversations not only about the strength of the case, but also about accountability for influencers with massive online platforms. Now, most people, at least in America, hadn't really heard about Philly until this particular story. I personally knew about him, or I should say I personally found out about him through Chunks, who's another popular YouTuber that Philly used to be around. Once this case hit the news, it blew up, and a lot of people did actually find out about Philly through this story, right? The story became very massive, and suddenly everybody had an opinion. On social media, you had people in disbelief saying there's no way this could be true about someone they'd been watching for years. And on the other side, you had people pointing to the seriousness of the allegations, saying it didn't matter how famous he was. These were charges that couldn't just be brushed off. Also, a lot of clips started going viral of Philly kind of, saying some things. I'm not going to show you those clips, but it was kind of more on the side where a lot of people felt like, damn, he was being very inappropriate to women when he was talking to them. And a lot of these clips ended up going viral, and that kind of shaped the perception of the situation, and people kind of looked at the story through that lens. So the divide was obviously very clear. A lot of people wanted to see this play out, while others felt his career was already over. Either way, the conversations around Young Philly went far beyond his music or YouTube content, and obviously public opinion shifted very quickly when this story broke. So Young Philly isn't obviously some underground creator. He's been hosting BBC shows. Some of his songs have actually charted, pulling in millions of streams, and he's sitting on top of a huge online following even till this day right now, which is why when the case broke, it made headlines everywhere. But while the public was busy reacting, inside the courtroom things were moving fast. Prosecutors laid out their case, pointing to CCTV footage and photographs they said backed up the allegations. They argue that with Philly's influence, this wasn't just an ordinary situation. His massive reach could make witness interference a real concern. And as if the situation couldn't get any heavier, while he was already out on bail for those charges, Philly picked up another case. On November 17, 2024, they caught Philly driving at about 98 miles per hour in a 62 miles per hour zone. And for my international viewers, that's 158 kilometers per hour in a 100 zone on a highway in Perth. Police then impounded his car on the spot. On December 19, 2024, he appeared before the Perth Magistrates Court and pleaded guilty to reckless driving. The SE case was adjourned to January 30 with no plea entered yet. The reckless driving charge was also pushed to that date. His bail conditions were slightly relaxed. Instead of daily check-ins with the police, he now only had to report about 3 times a week. But the main restrictions remained. He had to stay in Western Australia, avoid any contact with the alleged victim, and not post about the case online. Philly made no comment as he left court, surrounded by media. After December, things went pretty quiet for a while. Philly was still out on bail, still under restrictions, and the whole case felt like it was in limbo. Nothing major was happening in public until March 2025 when he was back in court. On March 11, 2025, Young Philly officially pleaded not guilty to all the charges. The case was then moved up to Western Australia's District Court with a trial date set for June 13. And then during this summer, court documents revealed something bigger. A full 10-day trial was already being scheduled for the following summer, starting the 20th of July 2026, according to BBC. But that wasn't the only development, because on June 13, 2025, the BBC reported that Young Philly is now facing 2 additional counts of sexual penetration without consent, bringing the total number of charges even higher. No plea deal has been entered on these new counts as of right now, but they stem from the same exact alleged incident on September 28, 2024 in Australia. So like we stated, it looks like the summer of 2026 is when Philly's trial is officially set to begin. But while we know that, something else happened that surprised a lot of people. In September 2025, a district court judge amended his bail conditions, meaning for the first time since his arrest, Young Philly was actually cleared to fly back home to the UK because he's been in Perth under strict bail conditions ever since he got extradited from Brisbane in October 2024. But the judge gave him permission to travel, allowing him nearly 4 months back home. There are strings attached though. He has to be back in Western Australia by January 7, 2026, and the very next day he has to surrender his passport to the authorities. On top of that, there's another $100,000 added to his bail, and all of his devices must have location services switched on at all times, even while overseas visiting his family. So that's been a situation with the Young Philly case so far. We've seen him extradited, hit with multiple charges. He caught a reckless driving charge, like he was on his Lewis Hamilton shit, only to then get 2 more charges added on. And now, despite everything, he's been cleared to fly back home before a trial that's still almost a year away, right? Or technically July, not entirely a year, but it's next year, July. It's a long time, right? But he has to be back in Australia by January 7, 2026. So right now he's very much being monitored during this entire process because the court still considers him a flight risk, especially since he got money in, okay? Philly's doing phenomenal in his career. I mean, he's got the money, he's got the bag, he's got the fame and all that, right? So from their perspective, that gives him the means to disappear if he really wants to say deuces. But I don't really know how likely that really is, right? Considering how known he is, could he disappear? Maybe. But then again, I don't think he would. I don't know though. But the Australian authorities, clearly, they ain't really taking no chances. They're not trying to let him do the dash or possibly do the dash from their perspective and end up chasing him around the world. So every move he makes right now is being watched closely. The outcome of this situation is still wide open. And what happens when the trial starts in 2026 will decide everything for Young Philly. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. I have absolutely no clue if he did any of this right. I'm just reporting on a story, and that's why I think it's important to just wait and see. Because just like the Davis story we've been covering, we don't really know what we don't know because we don't know it. Obviously, in Philly's case, it's different because prosecutors have an entire case against them, and they feel very confident that they've got enough to move forward in this case. And just so you know, in situations like this, charges don't always depend on DNA or other forensic evidence. Sometimes a complaint alone is enough to bring it into the court. That said, his defense is pushing back hard on everything being presented, saying that he didn't, do any of this stuff, right? And the fact that he's basically been stuck in Australia under these restrictions this whole time until just recently, it really shows how seriously the Australian authorities are treating this case. If you made it this far, drop a like for the algorithm and subscribe if you're new here. And by the way, if you ever want to reach out or just say what's up, Instagram, IG is the best place because I actually see my DMs more than comments. So if you want to say what's up and just show love, I'm always going to respond, and I'm always, happy that people do that. That actually really motivates me to keep going, man. It's at I am Blacky Speaks on Instagram. So definitely tap in with me. But y'all let me know in the comment section below what you guys think about this young Philly topic. And I'll catch you guys on the next video, man. I'm out. Peace.